And ultimately, I've just leaned into the condition and all of the symptoms that I have in my experience of it. And I've never felt more powerful. I feel more emboldened now.
Welcome, everyone, to Leadership in Quarters podcast, the interview series where leaders come to share their perspectives on different leadership topics. I'm Josh Seldin, and today's guest is Mark Steiner. Mark Steiner is the co founder and CEO of GigSalad, the leading online marketplace that has connected over 4 million event planners with entertainers, speakers, and service providers. His path into entrepreneurship began in the world of acting, film sets, and talent representation, where he discovered his passion for helping creatives find opportunities to do what they love. Adopted at birth and late diagnosed with ADHD in adulthood, Mark has always viewed the world through a lens of empathy, intuition, and emotional intelligence. He leads with compassion, trust, and a belief that business should feel meaningful rather than transactional. In his view, when one person succeeds, everyone should rise with them. A natural storyteller, Mark speaks openly about leadership, vulnerability, creativity, adoption, ADHD, and building a business that prioritizes humanity. His voice carries warmth, honesty, and vision. And he believes that the best ideas are the ones that make life better for others. So, welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you very much. As I was listening to that, I realized we might need to trim that up a little bit. That's a long bio. We have to embellish over here. Thanks for reading all that.
Yeah, of course. I think it's a good intro. It is a little lengthy, but I think it gives a good view into who you are. And it really lets you reflect on everything you've done. A lot of times you're like, I wonder what my life's like. And then it's this quick 2-second bio. And this really lays out a lot of what you've done.
Yes. Yep. No room for imagination there. I've told you everything you need to know. Thank you for
That's
having me,
right.
Josh.
Great
Have a great
episode.
day. Yes.
That was fun. No, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you coming here and having this lighthearted attitude of how we're going to cover everything today. Because I want to let everybody know what we're talking about today is what late diagnosed ADHD taught you about leading diverse thinkers. And first, I appreciate you for obviously sharing that with everybody. And I think it's going to make a great episode because we do have a huge diversity of thinkers and people in our workplace. And so this will definitely, I believe, make people think a little differently.
I hope so too.
So we're going to jump right in. And as we heard in your bio and your intro, you did discover ADHD later in life. And so, what has learning about that later in life changed the way you think? And how does that change how others think when they talk about and evaluate talent and potential in other people?
So I was diagnosed at 57 and a half, and I'm 60 now. So it was right about this time, 3 years ago, I was diagnosed. And the reason I got diagnosed, the reason I even got screened, I even thought to get screened was because my daughter got diagnosed first. She was in law school and she had been having trouble testing even prior to that, high school on. And we thought we were treating what was just basic anxiety, and then she went and got further screened and turned out that she had ADHD. So she was telling me about the symptoms, and it was like the light bulb. It was very cartoonish. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, and what? Yes, you're describing me and me my entire life. And yes, I see it in you too. I didn't know this was a thing. I didn't know there was a label for it. And so I had the immediate multi emotional reaction to it all, which was one part relief, one part mourning and grieving, one part joy, one part sadness, all of it reflecting. And then, of course, what ADHD people do, ruminate about it. And then once all that calmed down, like 3 minutes later, because that's the rate of emotions I can feel very deeply and very quickly. Now it was time to get down to business and figure out, okay, what does all this mean? In the processing of this, I asked myself the question, how does this change me now? What am I going to do differently than I did before? Because
Mhm.
it happened to come at a time when I was starting to ramp up again. Over the past couple years, and especially over the past 2 years, I decided that I was going to be creative again. I was going to dig into being a more engaged CEO. I was still creating. I have a couple company ups that I'm working on. I've gotten into real estate. I started acting again, and that was just Monday. But the first thought I had was, I've done this before. I've gotten this far without it, without knowing. Do I do anything differently? And I thought, let's see how it goes with medication by treating it in that way. And I did that over 2 years of trying different things, talk therapy, my psychiatrist and I that screened me. And it changed everything and it changed nothing. Mostly what it did was it gave me clarity, it gave me a certain level of peace. And it also gave me a direction going forward about how I was going to be able to not just talk about my journey and what I've been able to accomplish in spite of this condition, and that I knew there was something, but I didn't know what it was
Mhm.
about me. And then really, ultimately, what I've gotten to is that, for one, I like doing podcasts like these very much because I do like talking about it. I talk to think, and every conversation brings me something different and new. And ultimately, I've just leaned into the condition and all of the symptoms that I have in my experience of it, and I've never felt more powerful. I feel more emboldened now because that was the one missing link for me was I got this thing. I
Mhm.
know I can spin a lot of plates. I know I can juggle a lot of balls, but sometimes I'm distracted and that's not great. And sometimes I can't focus or sometimes I hyper focus. And what can I do? How can I hack my way through this and correct the various nuances and perhaps do better going
Mhm.
forward? And that's where I'm at with my adult diagnosis.
I do one appreciate you sharing that with me because not everybody feels so comfortable to share with everybody kind of their
Oh,
journey on that.
oh, yeah. Thank
And I'm trying to think about really some of the lessons in what you just said and how we can think differently moving forward. Because I think back to my college days, and I did have friends that were in the same situation as you mentioned your daughter was, where they
you.
weren't doing great in school, they didn't know why, and ultimately they got diagnosed. And I think then a lot of things started making sense the way you just explained it. How do we take a similar approach and mindset shift in the workplace? Because in my mind, what I see is when people struggle in the workplace, our first thought isn't, do our systems and environment support this person to succeed? Our first thought is not, is there something else there that we don't truly understand and that's what's impacting their performance? Our first thought is, their performance is bad, which means they are not good at their job. We are going to go work them through the system. So, how do we take this lesson that you just shared and what I've experienced in school and all of this and change our thought process in the professional world?
Yeah, thank you. In my case, I was the boss.
Mhm.
And as the co founder and as the CEO, our culture was me and my co founder who planted the seeds and watered what we cultivated. And what was really interesting when I officially announced, hey, everyone, I got news. I got ADHD. Everybody, it was crickets. It was like, oh, yeah, we knew. You
Yeah.
didn't know? And so I didn't get treated any differently, except as I would catch myself doing the things that I now had to find and I understood better, I'd find myself apologizing or at least qualifying or explaining and talking my way through what I was experiencing in real time. But again, that's me as the boss, and I have a little more clout or leverage that I can do it my way. Fortunately, we have an amazing culture. And in the same way that I would support anybody on my team who came out and said, I have that too,
Mhm.
I would approach it with empathy and compassion and understanding and with the EQ mindset, which I naturally developed in my life because I didn't consider myself a particularly bright on the IQ side. I thought I was a little slower, or I thought, why wasn't I a better student? I got fine grades. I was average to maybe upper average, but I didn't consider myself a good student. I had to either try really hard for that, but I wasn't college material. For example, I didn't go to college. And so for me, I had this stigma and insecurity and felt inferior when it came to the book smart sort of thing. And
Mhm.
that carried into me being, even though I was the owner of the company, as the CEO, I would often question, hey, how am I doing? Am I doing okay? Because not only did I not go get an MBA, I didn't even go to college.
Right.
So are people respecting me? And as it turns out, I was able to do what a lot of ADHD people do, which is mask and shapeshift and make a place for yourself. You do your best in acting your way through it. And that's what I did. My team is small. We have 20, 10 here in what we consider the headquarters where I'm based. And we have another office in North Carolina and another 6 or 7 there that are the developers. And then we have a bunch that are spread. We have remote workers everywhere. And I've never asked who's got what on the team, and no one's ever told me, not with this team anyway. And I don't even try to guess anymore. It's like, as far as our team goes and our culture, it really is helping to find people that are, number one, they're hard, solid workers. They have ambition, they want to grow, and that we've done our best to help them find the thing that they're most gifted at. What is their strength? What is their talent? And we've had a lot of people on the teams move around different positions with the freedom to try just about anything they want. And I think that kind of lends itself to a more emotional experience, a more organic way to develop talent and build a team. I think that, by just the sheer nature of it, is how we addressed ADHD without knowing we were doing it. For me, if for nobody else, for me. And it's worked.
You've touched on it a little bit, but when I think of our current landscape outside of, I think, obviously GigSalad, we set up systems and standards and environments for what we consider the norm, like the normal person.
Right.
And the issue with that is that then lends itself to everything that you just went through and listed out, where the people who don't fit that norm and that mold have to
Mhm.
mask up, have to go and chop up who they are to try to fit this mold, and they aren't truly bringing their full selves to work and who they really are to work. How can leadership be proactive in the approach and say, okay, probably today more than ever, we have people being diagnosed with anything, ADHD or anything else, in different stages of their life? How do we relook at our systems and our standards and our environment and think, rather than have this be one big mold that fits a certain person that everybody else has to form themselves into? How do we change things to make sure that we are making way for more diverse thinkers and diverse minds?
The first question I would have for that leader, management, owner is, how much do you have in the budget that you're willing to risk and play with? It's an investment, and it really is an investment that takes time. And the only ultimate cost is that you may have some lag time where somebody decides they want to try a different role or go to a completely different department, and you're willing to give them that freedom, that independence to explore, with the hope that they're going to find their way. And it requires coming alongside that person, making sure that it's not just, oh, you have carte blanche, take all the time in the world, but it really is, tell us what you're interested in. Do we have somebody on the team that can actually teach and train them and mentor them? And if not, what resources can we get outside of the company to provide that? Can we pay for a class? Can we do this, that, or the other thing? Here's all I can say. The proof is in the pudding. We have done that more times than you could imagine in our team of 20. Most of the people in our team, sans the developers, started in the customer service, what we call our customer happiness department. And that is the people that answered the phones, returned the emails, and that is where they would learn the bedrock of Gig Salad. That much everybody needs to know how the system works. And once they've done that, if one says, I'm really interested in finance and I'd like to be trained to be the bookkeeper, we did that. Our
Wow.
bookkeeper started in customer service, and that is our bookkeeper now. And we had an outside controller who trained him while he got cultivated and learned the craft and skill. And then we cut him loose. And he now does the books for 3 or 4 of our companies, at once. Our lead content person, head of content, and does so much more. Veteran employee, and she has probably held conservatively 6 different titles since she's been here, and even variations of those titles. And now I think finally, probably over the past 2, 3 years, and she's been with us for 15 or 16, she's in her sweet spot. She does so much for our company and she knows the product and service better than anybody. But we gave her the freedom to do that. And it's risky. It can be a little unnerving. And especially the buck stops here. So again, this is a blessing in my case because I'm not accountable to anybody. It's me and my partner. And if we agree on something, then that's all that matters. And that's how we've done it all along. It's like, hey, we like this person. We trust this person. They apply themselves. They're good, but they just might not have found the right thing yet. Let's help them do that. And then when you've invested in that way, you have loyalty from that team member. You've perhaps helped them find the position that nobody else can do. This goes to our slogan, peace, loving gigs. For me, the gig in one's life is the thing that person and that person alone can do. It's their unique qualities and gifts and strengths. That's what they were put on this earth to do. And if I can even just have a handful of those people on my team, it's wonderful. But I believe that everybody that's at GigSalad right now, and I am not exaggerating, all 20 people, I know they love what they do. And each one of them brings so much to the company. And we're still profitable with all the investing we've done, and all the time that we gave them. So it really comes down to it's a time and patience sort of thing. And sometimes it can be over years. But each iteration of that, they're bringing quality. It's not like
Right.
they were bad at something. They were good, but what can we find for them to do that's great? And that's the secret sauce. And it's not unique to us. I promise and guarantee that if you can budget it and keep that philosophy going and just bake it into the numbers, then you can create some really amazing companies.
It's intentionality and investment, as you said. And I think there are things that you're talking through that are exactly the right approach because a lot of times we go back to this person's maybe not great or they're okay in their role, but it isn't where they're passionate. It's not where their values align. And that's where you want to make sure you have an effective succession planning system where you can say, I'm going to be able to move this person here. I'm going to be able to move somebody else behind them or hire somebody behind them and make sure that you understand the person as an individual, so you understand what they want, and you have the comfortability that somebody can come up to you and say, "Oh, hey, Mark, I really am interested in finance," because if they didn't, maybe you never would have put them there in the first place. But then the extra step it seems like that you all went that I think a lot of places miss is, okay, you've got somebody who is very interested in finance. I want to put them in somewhere where they seem to have a passion, but they may not be very effective at finance right now. So I'm going to
Correct.
go give them somebody as their coach, their mentor, whoever it is, to make sure they're successful before I let them out on their own. Normally we say, hey, you are a high performer. I'm going to put you in this other role, or you are somebody who's interested in this. Go ahead. And then they have no support system and they fail.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yes. Bring somebody alongside of them. It's just smart management, Josh.
It
You
is.
know that, right?
It is. It's smart management, yet somehow we miss it a
We
lot.
miss it. Yes. Yes. Yes, it's
We do
missed.
somehow. But
That's
I love the progress I'm seeing with this, and it makes me think then I think we've looked at kind of intentionality from the leadership perspective, how we look at systems and environments and standards for the company. But now when it goes back to the individual leader who is going to be managing people that have some sort of diversity in the way they think or just who they are, how do people then reflect on themselves and their leadership style and their communication style where a lot of times the mindset is this is how I am as a leader. This is how I will be, regardless of if I'm managing Mark or Josh or Joe or whoever. Where now that you have this diversity of thinking, that doesn't cut it. I have to communicate differently depending on who it is. How do we get leaders to get to that point instead of thinking, I am who I am and that's all that I am, and you have to deal with it?
again, it's one of those, if you have a leader that's fixed in that way, it's disappointing at best because it's not good leadership. In the long run, what have you accomplished? For me, I think about that, and it makes my skin crawl because there's an arrogance to it. There's a pride. There's a self-righteousness of what's good for me. Eh, Everyone should adapt around you as a leader is
Mm.
ridiculous. For a long time, we didn't even have titles at Gig Salad. Steve and I, it wasn't something we were jockeying for. It wasn't something that approached me like this. We wouldn't dare allow somebody to refer to us as the boss. We have been a team since day one. We've been a team. It wasn't until we hired an outside consulting firm to look at our management style and just see if there's any tweaks. And they brought to our attention, hey, you're probably at a stage now where some titles and definitions would help, both for the external world, just and how they communicate to you, how they refer to you, but internally, there's value in saying this is your name and this is what you do. And so we did that.
Mhm.
But still, the approach has been we're only as good as any one person. So if you have this superior sort of attitude of looking at the minions or the subordinates as lower or less, it's just outright, it's just wrong. And morally, it just affects me. And so a smart leader, however, would look at in the same way that you would want your team to be cultivated, there's space for you too. Go and take a class on your own time. Go and study a little bit about whatever the condition or the diagnosis is. Do personality tests. Bring in people that can help you to do better. We can always do better. Well, here's what's funny, Josh. Before, when I said I'm not sure who else on the team does or doesn't have it, it just dawned on me there is somebody that came in and said, I've got this and I'm just like you, Mark. And it was wonderful because when I talked about it freely, they offered up that they had it too. And now the reason I didn't immediately think, oh, yeah, there is somebody else is because once you get through the labels, then you can deal with the heart and the soul and the core of who the person is. It's a part of it. But really, what we end up doing is just understanding there's different personalities, and that comes with all the warts and the blemishes, and it comes with all the wonderful, beautiful things about the person as well. And you don't necessarily look at somebody with they've got something or they have a disability that you have to work around necessarily. Yes, provide an environment where they tell you, here's my needs. Here's the things that will, I promise you, you give me this or provide that, you'll get every bit of good quality work from me. And it's transactional. You don't have people just say, yeah, I need this benefit and I need this little accommodation or this or that or the other thing. And thank you. But it's a conversation. Oh, tell me about that. You're saying that if we provide this, it's going to do what? And not to be confrontational, not to question, not to be overreactionary or defensive or offensive, but really learn because it's the world. It's the world in which we live in. It's simply learning how to work within and around diversity because that is what we are.
We are. And approaching people in these situations with curiosity, I think, is the most important part because
Absolutely.
I can make assumptions. And if anybody on my team ever comes up, it's even easy for me to say, you told me you have ADHD. I just talked to Mark on a podcast episode. So, of course, I know everything about you and everything you're going through. No, I don't. And that's where, if they feel comfortable enough to tell you, which they may never, but hopefully they will
Correct.
at some point, then that's where you get to sit down and ask curious questions and show your interest. And that builds that trust and that safe environment where they may then ask for those things and say, hey, as I've learned about this and I've reflected on who I am, this is what I need, or this is what I think can make me perform better. But you said it where a lot of times we don't go that extra mile and ask those questions and go to learn. We're just like, okay, great. You have that. Okay.
Yes. And you nailed it, Josh. If a leader's not curious, if a leader is not inquisitive, if they are back to being fixed and stiff and not bendable and
Mhm.
pliable, missed opportunity and not for a great environment to work in. And so, yeah, be curious, ask questions, learn. And this is a new thing for me. This is a late in life thing. I've been the best student I've been in the past 10 years, past 20 years.
It's a continuous learning cycle. And I think that's the best way for a leader to really approach that. And I truly appreciate everything that you've shared so far. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to share with everybody? Any final thoughts?
Oh, thank you, Josh. Yeah, as I mentioned when we started, I'm 60 years old. I'm an empty nester, and I have never felt more ambitious and enthusiastic about what I'm doing currently and what's ahead for me. I'm so excited for what's to come. And yet I have a tremendous amount of contentment and satisfaction, and I'm very full. But as I've gone on and as I've had the experiences I've had, and as I'm learning new things about me and realizing that, oh, there's others out there that have had a similar path or journey. Here I am in this great midlife time of my life where I have some experience and expertise that I can share, and I'm doing it. And I've never felt more fulfilled. I have so much value because I didn't give myself permission to think that I had much to share before. I looked at most of what I did with dumb luck, and I had one good idea, and I hired well and partnered well, and off I went. But really, it's never too late, and go find your gig.
I thank you for sharing that. To remind everybody, this is Mark Steiner. I'll have all of his information on the posting we send out, as well as the description or the YouTube video and all of the podcasts that we have out there for this episode. You can like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast that you can find on all podcast platforms that will have all of Mark's information in it. Also to my Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Lead in Quarters. And you can email me with any questions that you have for myself or Mark. If you can't get a hold of him, we'll get you all together. Or any ideas you may have for future episodes at leadinquarters@gmail.com. But I do appreciate, again, saying it, that you have come here and obviously shared your story. I think it gives us a different perspective on how we lead ourselves and how we lead others. But the other thing that I feel as we wrap this up compared to where I stood when we first started and as I prepared for this was not only are you teaching everybody how to lead differently for diverse thinkers, but you're also really reinforcing the fact that we live in a constant cycle of change for ourselves as humans. And you can run into this situation early in life, middle of life, late in life, whenever. But the story here is you don't let it stop you.
Yep.
You were successful beforehand. You are successful now. Obviously, you're going to maybe hit a valley when it first happens, like you took us through all the emotions. But at the end of the day, you don't let this life change stop you. You embrace it and you figure out how to make it give you momentum and energy to propel forward. And I think that is a huge lesson for everybody to take out of this. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Josh. Appreciate it. I appreciate you having me on. And yeah, great conversation.